Hello, welcome to the podcast. We've got Kyle and Jeff, and today we're going to be town halling the role-playing game. Just glimpsing into the world of that.
I love it.
Alright, how's it going?
That's a great
it's
opening
going
question.
well.
I love it.
Going? I think it's going well. So we're probably gonna discuss some things. So this will be like a where we're at, what we're doing, and then some of like how the debate goes and what we should be doing. But I think it's going well. We have our combat system is developed. I think it's good.
Good, yeah.
I'm not sure I'm ready to say it's great, but it's good.
We have the arcane we still need to worry about incorporating into that and see how that plays in. And that'll be interesting because then we're playing with hybrids as well, which no one else has touched still. The hybriding and how that plays into creating the numerical structure for our combat system.
What do you mean hybriding?
Hybriding skills is taking two separate skills and creating a whole new skill with a whole new tier set, which also means it has a whole new so every skill has a numerical value that determines the speed that the skill activates. You don't roll for dex. You don't roll for turn order. You don't roll that kind of initiative.
And every turn it's a new
turn order, which is huge. It's freaking awesome. I love the way it plays.
But what we talked about, and I actually wrote this down.
But we still haven't put it in practice.
So they all have a numeric value. One, when you do your hybrid ability, so let's say I do fireball and
Wind shear.
that would be a dumb combination.
I'm gonna ignore you and I'm gonna make you not and light you on fire.
And light you on fire.
Except the
A
speeds
wind
don't
shear ignite would...
ignite. You can because it doesn't do damage.
Ignite just catches you on fire.
Yeah, so
But-
when you interact...
so
someone,
if I were
they're
to
now
do
on
like
fire.
That's pretty interrupting.
yeah,
Fire!
It's like
let's say
my
I
wind
did
shear's interrupting. Cal.
fireball with
You do
I don't know,
fireball
like-
and strike.
and strike. So I do fireball and strike together. I'm going to take the two numbers that are, and then the lore keeper and I are going to create
A new ability.
striking ball, striking
Why
fire,
not fire strike?
fire strike. Let's go with fire strike.
Striking ball. I'm just so happy right now.
Welcome to the invention. So it's striking fire, and then so like you would figure out the lore keeper would determine its numerical value for like okay, that's my turn.
Yeah.
I can either see that being a strike that is on fire or you're throwing your fist. And just Baymax
Striker
it.
ball.
Just,
Striker ball.
Listen,
It's great. Now I'm picturing someone with a soccer ball, like up there being like, ja, ja, pia, striker ball.
striker ball.
who are you playing in this campaign? Messi.
I'll be Beckham. Let's go. I'll bend it. Anyway,
Oh my
those are the only
goodness.
that is the
So-
equivalent of soccer players that I know that are real.
So we have your number, and then whoever has the highest number or the lowest number, whoever's closest to 1 goes first in the initiative order. And so if I'm going to do fireball this turn, it's ability 556.
You look, yeah. I wish I could say
For
you
those
pulled
of
that right
you
out of
who
your
know,
brain.
you know, right? But if I was going to do, let's say, what's ability number 1 is the Swift Striker's tier 6.
Yes, it is.
So if I was
that
going to
one.
do the Swift Striker tier 6 and Kyle's going to do Fireball, I'll go first because I have number 1 and he has 556. So, so that's how we determine order. But the next round, I'm going to do something else. So I might go slower than Kyle. So we readjust every round. So
It's a great
And
system.
then he does something that's lower, and you do strike, which is 627.
Yeah. And so you
Yeah.
get the inside scoop from the new system. It plays really, really well.
it does.
But we still haven't actually put in. We have the rules for it, but we still haven't put it into play. What happens when you hybrid? No one's hybrided yet. which is interesting.
I'm
What do you
gonna
mean?
hybrid.
No one has created a hybrid in our campaign
Can you
test
hybrid?
threads right
Right,
now.
so
So we
even-
haven't actually put that into action to see where that actually fits in and how that plays.
Your lore keeper decides where that number is, so that ability becomes a new ability with a number.
Yes, but we don't know how that functions in the grand scheme of things until we try it out. We have the idea. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
We have the concept. It
That's
hasn't been put into concrete.
Okay.
So, what is the extent of hybriding? So, can you hybrid things from the same tree, the same class, or
Oh,
can
man.
you hybrid with arcane?
No.
No, you cannot
Okay.
hybrid with arcane. Arcane and essence are separate things. As a matter of fact, I don't think we've talked about if we can hybrid mundane in essence. I don't think we can. It's different types of magic.
So hybriding is only allowed in the essence tree.
Yep, that's what makes the essence tree unique.
Okay. Well, I was asking because
So-
we do have the vampires.
They no
Right.
Broken.
But
Brokens.
hybriding a skill is
in essence specific.
the book of essence, which everything that we do is the book of.
Yep.
Right. So we have the book of essence is all of your essence abilities,
The book
how they
of arcane.
function, how they work. Right. And so that's the only book that has hybrids available to you. Right. We have the book of lore keeping, the book of arcane, the book of characters,
The book of mundane.
book of mundane.
Can you
Well, actually,
hybrid
we're calling
tier
it the book of
6s?
knowledge right now, but the book of tier 6s.
Can you hybrid
No,
tier 6s?
no,
Oh.
no, 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 no.
So the
There's
other
only that.
caveat of hybrids is there's the only limitation on hybrids is it has to be of the essence tree.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know the skill that you're using, right? So I can't just be like, I'm going to use corrupted mutation from the shapeshifter tree and hybrid it with something else unless I have tapped into that already. So I have to own, but like I have to be able to use.
That's a good point too. Our guy in the chair did some
Yeah, nice.
some digging into the
No, they don't.
rules. We'll double check.
As if I advance, so if I do fireball at level 1 and strike at level 1, right?
And then
Then
you
it does
advance
20
fireball.
damage plus the strike damage plus the weapon, right? That's how that would work. If I advance my fireball, that one would also advance.
It retroactively increased.
So,
Exactly.
Can
So
I-
your hybrid is based on the two abilities, but I have to have fireball that I could use independently and strike that I could use independently to create a new ability.
can
Okay.
I, for chance, just say, can I hybrid light armor and whatever the basic heal is called, considering they both from the same thing?
What I would do personally, if I was
I'm
going
not
to put,
asking what you would do. I'm asking if it's possible.
yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
Hybrid is absolutely possible.
Okay.
But the way that would play out, and the way I would take that as a lore keeper,
So the
is
lore
that
keeper has to work with you.
you would have to slow it down to a standard action because you go to the slowest speed. That's part of it when you're combining the two skills. Light armor is a quick action. What light armor does is adds a bubble around the person that makes them heal whenever they take damage. The heal applies first and the damage takes effect. So if it would put you into a negative, it kind of rebuffs that so you don't fall negative beforehand. It's kind of cool in that regard. But then the basic heal is just here you go, bro, have 20 health. So the way that would apply is now you get 20 health and you get light armor. And so you'd have a direct
As a
heal light
standard
armor.
action?
Yeah, as a standard action.
Yeah.
You get both in one action.
In a sense. And that's how I would do it.
Exactly.
So,
And then, how does it play with tiers? Would this?
well,
So light
Yeah, I
armor
was
is a
gonna-
tier 2, yeah. And then heals a tier 1. So you add the tiers together, gives
Yeah,
you
it's
tier
a tier
3.
3. So that's
So-
how you get a tier 7.
No.
No,
you
never.
cannot hybrid past tier 6. So if your hybrid makes it
Oh.
a tier 7, you can't hybrid it, right? So your hybrids go together, create a tier 6. Now, here's the thing, right? If I wanted to, because now we're at tier 3, I have a tier 1, my light, or my heal, my big heal.
And your light
And
armor.
then I have my light armor that I put on is a tier 2. Now I have a tier 3 healing armor.
Yep.
Right? Is probably what, as the lore keeper, I would probably name it healing armor. Right? But now I want the dot, the heal over time at tier 1 to go with it. So now I have all of those things in a single cast,
Single action.
in a single action, but it's now a tier 4.
You can hybrid multiple abilities.
Right?
You take a skill and continue to build upon it until it hits 6.
Right.
So if you have 6 tier 1s,
It would be your
We
tier
talked about
6.
it. Yeah.
Because you
can
only
create-
get one tier 6.
Yep, that's still a rule. You only get one tier 6. There can be
Okay.
only one. Not the
But
Highlander.
yes, you absolutely can do that. If you want to design your own tier 6
You
by
absolutely can.
hybriding other abilities, then do.
I had the idea for a long time of playing a brimstone healer, which was a fire mage and a healer in combination, and I'd get healing rain and rain of fire as my tier 6 in combination, so I could just rain fiery
High
health.
rain, yes.
Because both of them let you control who you target.
Exactly.
And it's a channel, so you have to maintain it.
Well, and then your holy explosion and your ignite, or your the one that is, so there's one where it blows up and causes damage to everybody around it. One that does healing to everybody around it and blinds everybody they don't want
Eruption
to.
and holy explosion. Yep.
Eruption and holy explosion. You can advance those to the point where you have control over who is affected by them. If you advance them both to that and then hybrid them,
That's a tier 4.
it would be a tier 4. But then you could, as an instant, because they're both instants,
Yep, that's
I
the
would
key.
leave it as an instant. Now I can instantly heal my group, damage my group, or damage whoever I want to damage, heal whoever I want to heal, and blind whoever I want to blind. All in a single tier 4 cast.
It's pretty
You
wild.
could absolutely do that.
Yep.
Could you buff your heal to do 20 healing and merge it with fireball? Call it useless?
You really
Yes.
could if you wanted to.
Why you would? I don't know. Because you
Confuse
also
people.
because when you develop the new hybrid skill, it costs you the number of talent points that it is worth. So if it's a tier 4, it now costs you 4
To create.
to create it.
No, not 3 to cast. 3 to cast for dex points.
Right. It's 4
Four.
to
You have to
create.
have 4 talent points to create
Create.
this skill.
Right.
And then you have to have the others. Can you cast the others independently?
Yeah, they still
Yes.
exist independently. You're not losing the ability to do the other two.
And because it's built on the other two, it is there. Its power structure is based on the other two. So like we were saying, if you did fireball and healing, you have the
cancel each other
worthless
out.
cast. We'll call it the worthless cast. If you have the worthless cast, but then I buff my fireball to do 20 to do 30 damage, right? It actually would do 10 damage to you.
And
'Cause it would
confuse
heal
the
you.
other person.
And confuse everybody else. And then you could buff the healing and they both do 30 and they cancel each other out still. So you can do that, but it's relevant on the other two and it's retroactive because it pulls the power from the other two. So
brain.
so think about it like if I create a hybrid, right? So I have hot water and cold water. Is the easiest way to think about it. If I create a hybrid, I now have a hose that connects with both, and when I turn it on, both of them come out. So if I add power to my hot and cold, I add power to this one. Even if I just add the cold, it will add power to the hose.
Yeah.
Right? So think of it like that. Like that's how that operates.
Tap it, combine it.
Right.
One nozzle.
One nozzle.
I'm gonna
Ball
say
of
something,
week.
and we can
Ian wants to call it the ball of the
The
week.
ball of week.
ball of week.
I thought about it. I would
I'm
take
gonna-
the. Go ahead.
I would
We're on this kick.
put my idea in, and then we're gonna transition into what it is. What if I just Kamehameha it and hold it? The ball of useless, the ball of weak, and it's just this huge thing you throw it and does absolutely nothing.
Well,
That would be silly. I
It would
don't
be
know why
very
you
silly.
would waste that.
because there's actually something you could do. You could do water ball. Water bomb. No, because it's arcane. You
Nope,
can't do that
that's
anymore.
arcane.
That
There
is
used to be a time when you could you could spirit bomb people. You actually still can if you go arcane.
You can if you are.
You can fully spirit bomb. Only it's water bomb.
So
Crap. But that's there. If you're gonna do that, you've got to have it combined with a channeling skill that lets you continue to push power into it. And then you could sit there and hold it for indefinite and continue to power up this ball of useless.
okay, so let's do this. Do you have any more questions on how hybrids work?
That's fair, because we'll go into the
Because
weeds
we can talk about what you could hybrid all day long. But here's the key phrase, and then I want to ask that question again to you. The key thing that you have to consider is I have to have access to the ability to use it in a hybrid. It costs whatever the the two abilities combined is the new cost for it and value of it. So it is now a tier 4 or 5 or whatever.
Yep.
And then the number that is associated with it, if it is a standard action, if it's not a standard action, it's almost inconsequential.
Yeah.
But if it becomes a standard action, there's a number associated with it. That is determined between you and the lore keeper currently, and how the ability functions, like the specific functions of the two things and how they happen, is discussed between the player and the lore keeper. And that's the key thing. And one of the really, really powerful things that we wanted to keep in Savarion when we developed the role-playing game is this idea of you can do whatever you want to do. And I've pushed this out to people. What do you want your character to do? I bet as the lore keeper, I can help you accomplish that. Maybe not immediately, but we can get there. And I have been able to every time because we can hybrid abilities. And that's the goal of the freedom of play of Savarion. Not the goal of the Savarion role-playing game, but
The freedom
it's the freedom.
of expression. Yeah.
Yes.
yeah. As my characters, I I will create a concept of what I want them to do, and then I just build off of that.
Yeah.
And I
And you
made
can.
one of my favorite characters from all existence from doing that.
Yeah. So do you have any other questions specifically on
Can
how
summoners
hybriding works?
hybrid for 4 rounds?
So summoning,
No,
No.
that's different. You can't gift a high. It's actually written. You can't use that skill
No.
set to.
Can you gain access to that tree and then hybrid something?
No, because a hybrid requires you to have full access to it, full
Okay.
control. That's the caveat. You don't have enough time for having 5 rounds of access. That's only 30. That's 30 seconds. Even if you did, the moment you lost that skill set, if we were allowed that to happen, you would no longer be able to utilize that hybrid because you lost the power. That's the the other half of it. That's like cutting off half of the hose to activate the whole hybrid. It's not going to work.
Yeah, but then you get your talent.
but if you
points.
pre-built the
No,
hybrids,
you would lose your.
if you
talent.
pre-built the
So-
hybrids to sacrifice summons so that you could, like
Yeah.
we were talking about, why
Yeah,
not? If you're going to
absolutely.
plan ahead that much,
And you want a hybrid ability in the
Go
30
for it.
seconds that you have access to that. Yeah,
for it.
you can.
But you lose a lot of resources.
You are going to spend
Yes.
a lot of resources, and it's going to be a very silly choice than it would be to
but
just
you could,
yeah.
which goes into Dex, I
Ooh,
think.
the Dex is probably
So
good to talk about.
we,
The
oh my
evolution to
goodness,
Dex.
years we've been struggling. How do we make it so that the higher tier you get, it doesn't feel like it's just broken? I can't use a tier 5 as many times as I can use a tier 1. Because as a tier 1, I'm just swinging my sword effectively because that's what I'm proficient in. At tier 5, I'm literally like destroying walls, right? Because I'm using a ton of energy as a crusher.
yeah.
Right? Oh, yeah.
Kool-Aid man. You want to make it? We can help you with that.
Right.
Yeah, you lose
So,
awareness and
but-
topple a building.
How do we balance that? And so we initially introduced like
Focus points were one of this for the
yeah,
second
focus
iteration.
points. I don't even know how to go back and explain focus points.
So
like,
here's how focus points work. So we have to go back to the beginning, and before we introduced Dex, you had uses per day. Everyone was treated like a wizard in D&D. You had a certain number of spells you could cast per day that increased with your character's progression.
so I had 10 tier 1s, 7 tier 2s, so on and so on.
And you only ever had one tier 6 option.
Right.
Then we moved into, because it felt like everyone was like, when you get into the higher campaigns with uses per day, everyone's just blowing their tier 6 as fast as possible. And it was, I gotta blow my load before I die!
Right.
And it kind of was like, well, that feels silly. So then we tried focus points, which is now there's a slow build of progression where
Right.
you have to land an attack that generates a focus point, and then your tiers consume focus points. We're like, well, that actually feels worse.
Yeah, it was.
We did like
Although
3 games, and we were like, no.
kept
dog.
the focus points.
Yes, they got
For
incorporated.
the summons specifically.
It solved a problem
And it
that the
worked.
summoner didn't have. Like, we had a problem with the summons until we solved that.
Yeah.
So, creation focus points. Then Jeff and I gone back and forth,
We went back to uses per day for a long time.
You know,
Well, for a
And-
while you just waived it. You just
Well, we
said
had
you
it,
get
but
one tier
Nobody
6.
was tracking it.
it was never
hard to
actually
keep up
waived.
with.
Yeah, like I kept like.
It was
but
never
it's just
waived. It was just
people weren't. It's like the arrow count. And you play games, when you play role playing games long enough, you can have that character that doesn't actually count the number of shots they've produced with their arrows. A quiver holds 20 arrows,
right. And you're like,
and you're like,
how have you
are
been
you still-
multi-shotting like for 14 rounds? Come on, man.
You are not the main character in a movie.
you would not have Legolas magic, all right?
Right.
He only wanted arrows once for plot purpose.
Right. So people weren't even using it. So it's like, okay, we have to come up with a different system.
Dex points.
3:00 in the morning, shower thoughts, bro.
My goodness.
I'm fairly certain that I was sick out of my mind and just miserable. And then I was like, let's go. And we put this idea back out there because you started it. And then I was like, let me think on it. And then we built it. And then it was like we had.
Yeah, I think it was like the original idea of Dex points was awful.
Yeah.
Like it was like, let's just have like them spend a resource
To move.
to move.
It was that was the
Right.
intent.
And it was like,
It felt
that's
bad.
stupid.
It felt real bad.
I use wood.
Right.
I'm going to take 4 steps.
Yeah.
Kind of. Like it was just, there was so much bad. And so it needed refining. But yeah, it has gotten to this
Yeah,
point
I
now.
think you texted. It was probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. It's a text message, and Kyle's, I don't know,
I
in
was
the shower or whatever.
very sick.
He's like, I think we can make the Dex thing work. And so he proposed, like, I got like, I don't know,
It was
a
like
book.
6 walls of text.
Just text. And I was like, okay. So I sit down and I like go through and I read it, and I'm like, Okay. Yeah. So we like
Okay,
for like what, probably a week.
I think it was
We
a week
refined what
solid,
you had
yep.
wrote.
We hammered
We
it
just
out.
refined it, hammered it out, and came up with dex points is what we're calling it. And so characters now you get, because you are a character in Savarion, you get dex points, and your dex points is determined based on, like, you get 20 plus the number of earned talent points.
It wasn't originally, was it?
No, but this is
It
where
was
we've
just
landed.
20 max.
Like, we went through a lot of
It
like
has, yeah.
a lot
has
of variations, but where we landed right now, and like I said, I want to say it's real good, but I'm not ready to say it's done. But I think we're close.
Very close.
It
So you
looks
get-
pretty. There's just a few more things you need to hammer out.
Yeah.
So you get your dex points, and then you spend your dex points to do things. Your tier ones
Your equipment has a
has
cost to
a
it.
dex cost, right? And then your abilities cost the tier level -1. So you can permanently forever use your tier ones now.
Feels good now.
Yeah, and it's
This,
like,
this is my
'cause I
basic
should be able
skill.
to do
I can
this.
just throw fireballs
Right?
at you all day long.
But so we have like your actions that you can do. You have your movement action, your standard action, your quick action, and your instant action. You can move. You can do your standard, your movement, and your quick action on your turn, and your instant action at any point in time
You guys are getting the full
in a
blown
round,
yeah.
right? So those are the 4 things that I can do. So if you take this one out, I can do one of these 3 things. If I forego my standard action, I can move twice, right? If I forego my movement action, I can do stand your ground, which has a list of things, and there's like a what you can
rule
go
set
through,
for it.
right? And so what we did was, if you don't want to forego one of those things, you can spend a dex point to do it anyway, right? So if I want a double time,
Which is
but I
called-
still
yeah.
want my standard action, I can spend a dex point to do that. So now I can. And it basically takes a game where we were just trying to make it as
Feel better.
free as you can as far as what you want your character to do. It opened up to more options. Now, you don't get to spend like 15 dex points on one round so that I can move like 15 times.
You're still limited by
Right.
your maximum number.
There still is some limitation. or it
Unless
gets
you're a
little
Swift
crazy,
Striker.
You still have a limitation.
But yeah, if
You
you
can get an extra.
if you have no dex points left, you're immobilized, right?
Yep.
Which you could drop your armor and keep fighting. You know,
can
and
start
there's
dropping equipment to try and reduce that deficit. But
Yeah.
yeah,
and there's
you can drop the
abilities
weight
that
to move.
can recover some of your dex points, but you have to balance. You have to, and so it's a stamina thing, and it feels like
a real combat
a
system.
real
now.
combat. I know how strong I am. I know how long I can last in combat. What am I willing to do, and what am I willing to not do?
Yep.
And you spend your dex points to determine those
It
things.
gets you so much more freedom at a cost. So you can be free if you're willing to spend that.
It's a
Exactly.
balanced format of freedom, and it feels like actual combat. You can't go and fight forever.
Right.
And it's not quite as restricting as some of the other games. You can do what you want to do.
Yeah, we've definitely
It's
worked
not
really
like,
hard
hey,
at that.
you only have this ability, so you can't do anything with the ability. I annoyed Dad on one of my first campaigns by finding a nook in a rock and sniping people. I was crippling everything.
Our ranger, some of our status effects, a lot of things have come through a massive overhaul. But yeah, no, the Dex I think has put us where we like to be with the gameplay, and I'm excited for you guys to get your hands on it and try it out.
And because we introduced dex, we also introduced a new talent where you can spend 5 dex points and then move in combat wherever you want. So let's say, for the sake of argument, I chose to go really slow. So I'm at the end of the order initiative this round, but I have that talent, right? And so Kyle's taking his turn, and I need to be healed, right? And, well, no, that would
You need to heal him.
I need to heal him, right? I'm the healer. I go last. I need to heal him. So he's moving. I take my 5 dex points and I turn them in and I say, I'm going to take my turn now. He's just finished his movement. Now I get to take my full turn,
And then I get
right?
to take the rest of them.
And then, yeah, Kyle gets to finish his turn. So I stepped in. I paid dex for it, but I stepped into the combat to heal him out of the
initial
initiative go.
order. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this,
And so,
correct me if I'm wrong, this one can be interrupted any amount of times.
well, it's not an interrupt. It's a
I'm taking my turn next.
yeah.
And
it's
then
a
you stack
imminent.
that. Yeah. So,
So
if an enemy wants to jump into that turn and they have the ability to do so because they were built that way, then yes, they can also, just like I'm interjecting. And then the enemy's like, wait a minute, soon as he starts to move, or it's like as soon as he finishes his heal, I'm spending my 5 dex points because enemies have that as well. And then that enemy is going to take the turn and try and interject in that if they have that skill set. It can get pretty crazy.
It interrupts your turn.
Yes.
But it does not interrupt the action.
Nope.
No.
So, like, Wind Gust Wind Shear will interrupt an action. So if I'm casting Fireball and Kyle doesn't want me to cast Fireball.
How about no, Scott?
He casts the how about no, Scott. And then if he's successful, my Fireball is interrupted and I have lost my standard action for that round.
Yep.
Right? He made me lose it. If he says I'm going to interject my turn, he has to wait until the Fireball has finished. Now I still have my quick action. Maybe I still have my quick action left. He's going to go ahead and take his whole turn, and then I get to do my
finish
quick
your
action.
turn. Yep.
Right. That's how that works.
Yeah.
So it's not an interrupt, the same way that an action interrupt is.
It's an interjection.
And then if you just want to be annoying, you could 5 dex Wind Shear. And just take your turn
you
anyway.
can instant at any point in time, so you don't have to worry about
When
spending
you
5
take your
dex.
turn, would you get your instant back?
So that's something
that's a round function.
That's something that we have to flesh out.
Okay.
That's
Totally and completely, but it is a round function.
You get it back at the top of the round, not the top of the turn. That's probably the best way to handle that, because every single initiative track is a unique round in the way we've built this now. So once that round is complete, everything resets at the top. Whole new initiative setups, whole new everything.
What, Ian?
So there's that.
Yeah.
That's where we're playing with it right now. We've also got, oh goodness, so much more that we're fleshing out with our knowledge track. That's also gone through a major overhaul. Our character creation has recently, and I feel like has been a phenomenal change for people.
Oh yeah, with the racial traits.
Now we have more than just one racial trait that you get to start with, and it's not just cookie cutter. You have so many options.
And then you added
much more
the
freedom.
Classes, correct? The
Backgrounds.
Backgrounds.
So you have your bloodlines and your backgrounds.
Right.
bloodlines and backgrounds.
So you have your mom's bloodline, your dad's bloodline, and then your background. So I could have some Gatu Minotaur as my bloodlines, and I get to choose an ability
One of
that's
each of them.
available to the Samgatu as one bloodline, and the Minotaur as my other bloodline. Because I went Samgatu Minotaur. So I get to choose one. Now, if I went Minotaur, there's an additional option available. So you would get a Minotaur for your mom and your Minotaur for your dad. But like, so
What?
I got itchy.
we're running out of time soon. But
We are running out of time. So the runic one, it's called Rune Touched, and for the Minotaur, you get a heal that you can use.
So you will be rewarded with a
Okay, so
A unique
specification that you can only have if you're purebred.
if you're pure blood.
right. So so the Minotaur, you get
A heal.
And then,
you can choose your natural attack at creation, right? You can gain alchemy, or you can use oversized weapons. Like you can choose that as your racial bonus. Now, if both of your parents are, you also get the alchemist resilience. Heal yourself for 10 at a fatigue of 1. That is a accessible one. So like I could use my rune touch for my mom's and then one of the other ones for my dad's now, but that one is unlocked
If you're pure
because
blood.
I'm pure blood.
is there a specific way to decide what you would get if one of your parents is a half?
Your character
You wouldn't
creation doesn't determine like your character's your parents' lineage does not give you access to a third lineage. You're limited to 2 always, no matter
I'm
what.
asking if you had a Minotaur Samgatu mom, what tree would you pull from?
No, it doesn't matter. Your mom doesn't matter. Like what
Yes,
I mean
it
is like
does.
that. What I'm saying is like it doesn't
Hear
matter
this,
what
Kyle
her,
doesn't value mothers.
what I'm trying to say before the time runs out is her bloodline doesn't matter. When you're in character creation, you pick part of whatever, like your mother's bloodline is this. You can't have a dual bloodline for your mother. You take a predominant bloodline for your mother and a predominant bloodline for your father. That's how you determine what you choose.
So if she is a Samgatu Minotaur, you would say you pull from the Minotaur?
If you wanted to,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
So like that's what I was trying to say. Like her lineage is inconsequential. Your lineage is what makes
So her
your character
primary
creation.
lineage
Yeah.
is only matters.
Whatever, which is whatever you choose it to be.
So you get both of those, and they give you those bonuses, and then you have a profession, which we have like a lot of profession.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
But that's the other thing is the lore keeper can help you
Can-
create a profession that fits your background.
Exactly. So, but for an example, like the laborer, you get 3 additional dex points, and
Which is
then
huge.
1 gathering knowledge at 15, 1 tool of that knowledge, and then a +1 bonus to the trait associated with that knowledge. So if you choose that as your background, you get all those things. And so while that would set somebody above other people, everybody has that ability. And real quick before well, the last thing I want to say, I think one of the cool things about having the hybrid skills, our skill sets aren't quite as balanced as you would think they are. And that's on purpose. Because if I just want to convince people I'm the right person and I just want to influence that kind of stuff, I can do that. But in a fight, that won't be fair. Right? My crusher friend is going to be the best combatant in the ring, right? 9 times out of 10. Maybe a fire mage because he can keep his distance, whatever. But damage output wise, it's super unbalanced. Defense wise, it's super unbalanced. Healing wise, it's super unbalanced. But what's cool is I can mix and match and create and hybrid and do whatever I want, however I want, and balance anything. There is a paper to every rock.
And nobody
in the
is
game.
useless.
Nobody is useless.
It's unbalanced where they're useful. Like, I think it's the invoker.
Well, okay,
He's the convincer.
You can intentionally be useless.
You can
Yeah.
intentionally be useless.
You can make a ball of weak if you wanted to make a ball of week. I don't know why you'd want
Right.
to do it.
But that would be a choice.
Yeah.
So
Like I can't imagine what that
Cast
builds to.
confusion.
Like at one point in time, we had a character that was playing a ranged tank function. He was a ranger, earth mage hybrid, and was trying to keep people at bay and force them to target him. And then he just kind of ran away. It was like, "Come get me!"
right.
It didn't. It was interesting. There's no
Tank.
perfect. There's no perfect play style that's gonna overcome everything.
Right.
There's a yin to every yang, like you were talking about.
Yeah. And for my Minotaur, it was apparently a cat.
She ruined you.
I wasn't ready for that.
The Swift Striker got wrecked by the assassin. Oh, that was phenomenal.
It was because my rolls. She just like she would poke me, take away my entire turn, and then leave.
I was so impressed with that play. You handled it well too, because if you had been given free reign, people would have died.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
You were gonna kill people in that campaign,
Oh yeah.
without a doubt. All right, we have gone over time
All right,
for good reason.
we're gonna be live
we love
Tuesdays,
this.
1:00
Mountain
Standard Time.
Mountain Standard Time.
Mountain
Yeah.
Standard Time,
We're
and
not
then we're
Eastern
gonna
time.
be releasing another video on Thursday, same time, but that one won't be live, so you just get to watch it.
But you can still ask your questions in the comments, and we will still answer the questions. And
Yeah.
keep your eyes peeled, because yes, we will be releasing, once it's complete, the PDF wall of text option so that you can play whenever you're ready.
There's a lot of text. Be ready.
All right.
I'm sorry, I talked a lot.